So as a man or a father, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt confused, lost, even as a human being, like having no idea where you're at? Your life is a mess. That's where I found myself. My marriage was a mess. My life was a mess. My sons were in travel lacrosse at the time. Our financial margin was horrible. Our debt was off the charts. We had no idea how we are going to make it to tournaments at times. So I found myself in this space where I kind of figured out that I was the problem and I was stuck. So then I went into a ton of personal development, a ton of coaching to go from dark to light. And in that process, one day I had an epiphany. I said, how am I showing up across the board? Like, how am I showing up with my spouse? How am I showing up with my sons? How am I showing up? And then I got this wild idea. I had this courageous idea that, you know what? I'm going to stand in courage and I'm actually going to ask my sons that question. They were adult sons at this time. We had gone through the whole journey. I wanted to know how I showed up. How did I show up as a dad? How did I show up as a dad coach? How did I show up as a sports dad? How did I show up as a husband to their mother? How did I show up in the family in general? How did I absolutely show up? I wanted to know, and I knew that this could be potentially bad. So I asked my sons, and I didn't even know if they were going to do it. I asked them to kind of give me some feedback and even write something down if they could. I didn't think they were going to do it until about a week later. I got this letter. And in this letter, it was bullet points. And in these bullet points, again, they could have been paragraphs, they could have been chapters, they could have been a long story, but they were bullet points of where I could have done better or how I actually showed up. And it was titled The Great, the Good, the Bad, and Ugly of Dad. And one of the hardest things I had to see was they didn't know what version of me was going to walk through the front door or show up on that field. They were the happy dad, the great dad, or the bad, irritable, angry dad. So that's where I found myself. My sons had the courage to actually stand in that space. And I had to hold space. What I mean by that is I actually had to hold space for all those emotions. No justifying, no defending, no trying to use logic, no excuses. I had to absorb it all because that was their perception of the truth. That was their experience. I wanted to know how they experienced me as dad, and they let me have it. Well, today we have the opportunity to do it real time. My sons are with me today. I'm going to ask the same question, and we're going to go through this process together. We're gonna ask this question in real time. How did I actually show up? And my son Mac is gonna take the lead on this one. Go ahead, Mac.
Yeah, no. To start off from where you kind of ended your segment with, we didn't know which version of you would show up. So I think that Quinn can speak for it later. I think that almost had us remove our personal life from you, and we kind of just did what we needed to do to make sure that you were either proud of us or we were doing what you expected of us. So we dove into lacrosse. We did everything in lacrosse. We did all the lacrosse we could possibly do. And growing up, it almost felt like our relationship with my father was strictly through sports rather than father-son, which did what it did, but that was our relationship growing up, and it felt like we didn't have too much of a personal. And that could do things to a son, but it did lead us to great places. It led us to great journeys, things we can look back on and talk about. 20-hour road trips up to Vermont and stuff like that, and just bonding moments that we can have. And then I also never, through all of that, I never doubted my dad's love and care for us. He always wanted the most, and even though he may not have shared it the way we wanted to, and it was all tough love, it was never, like I said, there was never a doubt of he didn't care about us. We could have used it in different ways, but I knew he would go to the end of the verse for us, and that he would do whatever it took for us to succeed. He wants just the best for us. So that's what I had for those 2 points. Quinn, if you want to tie in on that one.
Yeah, pretty much what you said. Pretty much like it was always lacrosse, which I love lacrosse, but there would be times where like me and Mac had, I think, one of our best lacrosse season. I think my junior year, his senior year, we literally both scored. I think both of us total had like over 300 points. But
you each had 100-point seasons, and you had 232 combined points and assists. And we'll talk about that in a second too.
So yeah, so even though you have all that, there would be games that we would both, every game pretty much did very well, but when we get home or far right home, or even on the field, sometimes it would feel like we had probably had the worst game. Um, like you would yell at us or lecture us, saying that we didn't really do good or we should have done better, even though we did. Um, but at the same time, like Max said, you showed up for us. You videotaped games for us. When it came to money, you made sure we were able to do travel across, and have gear, like the equipment we wanted, go to tournaments, USA, and all that. So, even though it was like sometimes like during lacrosse it wasn't the greatest, but at the same time you were still there and you still showed up, allow us to have a still able to play the sport at least that I love playing.
So let's, for fathers that are dads of athletes or even parents of athletes, relevant to your sports journey, let's pick each one, if you have one, pick an ugly. I have one in my head that's kind of relevant to what you just said, Quinn. I have one that I just kind of still cringe. There's two of them, but a ugly moment and then maybe a great moment that we can balance out, because like I said, life's not always bad. And then so we can help fathers understand then what, and we'll talk about it next, kind of my evolution as well. So how about an ugly moment and a great moment, particularly related to sports or even life in general, because we are reaching out to athletes and their parents as well. So one of you can lead.
Yeah, I guess one of the ugly moments, we start with the ugly first, kind of alluding to what Quinn was talking about earlier. We did have, in retrospect, we had one of our better games, best games. Both of us had combined, 13, 14, 15 points, but however, we still lost. And unfortunately, at the moment, my dad wasn't pleased by that we should have been able to win the game. So coming off one of our best games where we felt good about it, it's just a team game, we just weren't able to come out to win. We were still down about it. So that's one of the uglies, but I think one of the greats was, especially through college, I think it's not every home game could he make it, but most home games he was able to make it down to show support. And as he grew older and more self-aware, he was able to just show up and just watch us play. He wasn't the parent on the sideline yelling at refs or anything. He was just there to watch his kids play and just enjoyed seeing us in our uniforms. Especially Quinn and I both went to the same school, playing together. And then typically we always had dinner and breakfast the next day at the original Pancake House down in Charlotte. So we would always break bread and just be together. And he didn't just come down and leave the next day. They stayed for the weekend so that we can spend a little more time.
Appreciate that. Quinn, what do you think?
Yeah, so I say one of the, I guess, bad moments for me would be we were playing in Catoctin that same year, junior year. I wouldn't say I didn't have a bad game, but I also didn't have a best game. And I remember we won that game, but like I said, I had like 2 goals, 1 assist, and I remember walking off the field and you coming across still and mad, yelling, angry, and it pretty much kind of felt embarrassing, being yelled at in front of everybody. But at the same time, at the good moment, kind of what Max said, showing up to pretty much every game, or pretty much, I guess, 5 years, 6 years, driving that long 6 hours every week, showing up, supporting us. Yeah, that's pretty much being there, supporting us. And like, I guess that you being in college and stepping back and not, I guess, letting us have fun and letting us go through this journey of college and college lacrosse on our own, without you being all up on our, I guess, seasoning.
Yeah, I think we all went through an evolution as well because there was moments, it took some time, but you guys would tell me, Dad, we don't want to hear you on the sideline. You might hear me some other games, but over time I started videoing, started taking pictures to start pulling myself away. And that evolution didn't come complete and full circle till college probably. But it was funny. I remember when we went to a college game to watch one of your friends, one of my friend's sons at a Division I college game. We're in a stadium. You and I are just chilling in the stands. And the parents are in the stadium yelling at the kids and yelling at the refs like they would at U9 lacrosse or travel lacrosse, or yelling from the sidelines. And I looked at you, I remember going, they can't hear them. We're in a freaking stadium. And if they can hear them, they don't know who they're yelling at. And the refs don't care. These were parents in a freaking full-blown stadium. And then we did. When I went down to your college, it was kind of to sit back and watch the parents. Normally it was the away team probably, but some of our parents are yelling at the refs or yelling at the team. And I had an opportunity because of you guys to actually step back. And I mean, there's some cringeworthy moments. I just remember, I don't know if we're talking about the same game, but it was a game that was personal. There's some ego attached to it for me. I had coached at one of the places, and it was freezing cold that day. So we'll put it some context, at least the game that I remember. You guys probably remember a lot of games where I was a jerk, but this one particularly, I remember, it was like a 12-10 game. You guys lost, but it was the third game. It was a play day. So you're playing 3 games. You played the first and the third. So you had to wait in the cold during the game 2. You had to all sit out in the cold. And you guys are freezing. Your hands are freezing. And I'm sitting there. And again, it's personal because we lost to a team that I had coached, but I think you all should have beat. And man, I come down and light you guys up on the field. And that's not the part that I remember the most. The part I remember, Quinn, I'm not sure where you went, but I remember Mac, the red bleachers. I just remember Mac crying. Like I said, Dad, I gave my freaking best. And then I caught myself and I apologized sitting on that bench. I'm like, I remember that. And then I go home and I watch the video and I just felt horrible. Because you guys had phenomenal plays. I think one of you had a play where you're like diving back. I think you were like literally parallel to the ground and scored. So I missed phenomenal plays because of my ego. And I think a lot of parents miss that. I think even this travel ball, lacrosse, because again, I'm doing a series in the podcast on the Youth Truth by Andrew Simpson, coaching and parenting in the crazy youth sports world. And I started to wake up to the point where a while back in that journey, a coach had given me an article where it talked about they interviewed college athletes and one of the best moments and the worst moments, kind of like we're doing right now. And the worst moments were the car rides home. And the best moments were, when the parents were just present. And that article advocated that you just tell your children that you love watching them play. Over my evolution, I did develop that. So if you guys are in the front yard right now, I'd love watching you play. I would just love watching it. Like you said, Quinn, I love the game. So it's cool to see that evolution. Fortunately, I have your young sister. She's in sports now. You guys will be confused because you'll see a whole different dad. I think the way I describe it is you guys had the midnight version. I literally worked midnights on the job as a police officer. You guys got the midnight version of dad, and your sister's going to get the day work version of dad, the Chill Academy instructor. But you guys will be a little confused. But I really appreciate you guys doing that. So I want men to hear that, hey, there is a possibility to make all these mistakes, to go into the pit, come out the other side of the pit into possibility, and that you can actually get to grace. But one of the places that you have to do it is you actually have to be vulnerable enough. You have to be courageous enough to ask your loved ones, how are you showing up? How am I showing up? How did I show up through your experience in life? And how am I showing up today? And for you guys going forward, hopefully this is a great lesson for you all when you go into relationships and when you're raising your children, your children's children, that we ask, we are the transitional characters in our family, say, hey, how are we showing up? Am I showing up great, good, bad, or ugly? And if I'm showing up in one of those ways, I have to aspire to be a man, be a father, be a husband. I may have to decide what that actually looks like. I may actually have to rise into that and figure it out, but I appreciate it. Any parting shots from you guys? Anything that you'd want to share with a father, share with an athlete in this journey about the great, good, bad, and ugly?
Yeah, I'll throw one thing out there. There's always going to be goods, there's always going to be bads. Relationships are tough, whether it's between sons and dads, whether it's between a man and a woman, whether it's just men against each other. Relationships are something you have to find the balance in. But as I'm older, now 27, in the corporate construction world, you raised us tough, and it was tough love. but that goes places. So I mean, there's room for tough love. There's room for being there and being involved in more than just the personal life and the sports life and the sports arena. Um, I mean, there's room for tough love as well. And in the field that I am, I'm not terrified of those above me by the mere fact that, like, oh, they could yell at you, scream at you, they're tough, they're mean. I mean, like, that doesn't faze me. If anything, it's just their status, and I want to show good first impressions and just do good work for them because they can determine my career in that aspect. But hard work doesn't scare me. Like, all of that, all of those characteristics that come from tough love have gone huge distances in my career, where I've gone, sports, college, and I'm sure it'll continue to go even further as I go down the road.
Very nice. Appreciate that. Anything, Quinn?
I would say like, yeah, it might have been like a lot of bads when it came to sports, but at the same time, like Max said, it was tough love. It did make me tougher, stronger. Like getting into college, obviously being a freshman, my first year in college, all those guys that are bigger, stronger, older. It's definitely, even though there's a lot of negatives in high school when it comes to yelling and all that, but at the same time, it kind of made me stronger. And it's
So
like
what's one thing that was great or good about the experience that prepared you, for example, for the fire academy? I mean, even Mac, for the corporate world, like, what's one thing that prepared you guys in your experience that was great or good? Maybe even the bad, but let's go for great or good.
I would say for the fire department, good would be you yelling at me, and then going to the firehouse, fire academy, and them yelling at me. I was used to it.
We've built some
like,
stress inoculation. We'd call that stress inoculation or resilience. Yeah, you guys were definitely inoculated to stress. Some of it, I mean, I think for men, I hope you guys realize in life, you have to have grace for your parents, because they're working with the tools they have. I think, I don't want men to get the message that we're beating ourselves up. It's just, this is an awareness. We're shining light on the facts. The facts could be great, good, bad, and ugly, but once we have the facts, we can evolve and transform. We can stand in truth. But yeah, I think for you, man, I think you've seen some things on the job as a volunteer, now going to be a professional, that you've seen some things your dad has seen. I got to a point in my life where I said, I've seen enough death. I don't need to see any more death. I remember going to a call. It was we call it DOA, right? They're natural causes. And normally you would go, and I've been through so many of them. I remember one night going, I don't need to go. There's enough people going. I've seen enough death. So you guys are experienced. You at least have some empathy for your dad. You guys have been on ride-alongs to have that empathy as well. So yeah, I think there's got to be, from father to son, son to father, there's got to be empathy. I think, and you guys can confirm this and let me know if this is the truth. I think when we did this exercise, we got to clarity and connection on the other side of this. When we got to the truth and we got to the facts of the great, good, bad, and ugly, you guys you had the space to just hammer me. You had the space, and I had to hold space and listen and not be defensive. When we got to the facts and the truth, on the other side of it, I think we have a different relationship in terms of clarity and connection. In other words, you guys could tell me right now, Dad, you're being a freaking jerk, and I would hear it. Or, Dad, you're being great, and I would hear it. And I can flip the script on you guys and go, hey, man, I wouldn't act that way or behave that way. Maybe someday when you have children, you'll hear me a little bit better, because we all now are standing in that space of truth and that vulnerability and that connection. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess the message, go ahead. I think the message for everybody is that when you stand in vulnerability, you create that clarity and connection. And when you stand in truth, you create that clarity and connection as well with those that you love. And then there is value in being courageous and asking the question, how am I showing up? How am I showing up? And then how can I serve you better going forward? Going forward, how can I show up? Going forward, how can I best show up to serve you and serve your needs and whatever you need? Cool, guys. I appreciate your time today. I love you guys, and we will talk soon.